We're going to begin the ceremony tonight with Achaman, or purification with holy water. And we begin by invoking the holy rivers of India into our water pot with the sacred mantra. Gange cha Yamuna chaiva Godavari Saraswati Narmade Sindhu Kaveri Jalesmin Sanidim Kuru Shri Vishnu Shri Vishnu Shri Vishnu. Om apavitra pavitra va sarvavastam gatopi va ya smaret pundarikaksam savabhyantara suchi. This mantra says, regardless of what situation I find myself in, I might be pure or I might be impure, if I can go on continually remembering the beautiful face of Krishna, his eyes are like the eyes of a peacock feather, and he has red lips, and he has always a sublime smile. He's playing his flute. If I can remember that, as we're seeing Krishna right now, I become purified within and without. Okay, so you take 3 drops and you sip after washing your hands. Okay. We need another achama. You have another one there. Okay, yeah. Om apavitra pavitra va sarvavastam gatopi va yasmaret pundarikaksam savabhyantara suchi. Om apavitra pavitra va sarvavastam gatopi va yasmaret pundarikaksam savabhyantara suchi. Om apavitra pavitra va sarvavastam gatopi va yasmaret pundarikaksam savabhyantara suchi. Om apavitra pavitra va sarvavastam gatopi va yasmaret pundarikaksam savabhyantara suchi. Om apavitra pavitra va sarvavastam gatopi va yasmaret pundarikaksam savabhyantara suchi. Shri Vishnu Shri Vishnu Shri Vishnu. So Achaman is done. Lalate Tishivam Dhyayan Narayanam Matodare Vakshe Stale Madhavam Tu Govindam Kantu Kupake Vishnu Cha Dakshina Kaksho Bahucha Madhusudanam Trivikramam Kandare Tu Vamanam Vamapratsvake Rishikesham Tu Kandare Priste Tu Padmanabam Cha Katyam Damodaram Yakset Tapaksayanam Toyam Tu Vasudeveti Murdane.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jasodhanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Thira Panachari Jamuna Thira Panachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasodhanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jasodhanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Thira Panachari Jamuna Thira Panachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Om Ajnantimidandasya Jnananjanachalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juthapadakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahakana Raghunathanbitam Tham Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakan Bidhamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patithanam Bhavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Brinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you, Hari Vilas Prabhu, for giving me this opportunity to serve you and this beautiful family of yours. You have brought everyone so closely to the lotus feet of His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. That is our greatest aspiration, not to be seen as great people ourselves, but to be united together at the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada. Because in doing that, we are connected to Srila Prabhupada's greatness. And then we can actually do great things within this world. When Srila Prabhupada was on Jaladuta, he offered these beautiful prayers. And actually, it was his prayer to Krishna at a time when he had nothing. From a material perspective, he had extremely poor health. He was in poverty, and he didn't know anyone where he was going. And he was 70 years old. His prayer was, Krishna, let me speak your words. You speak through me. And make my words suitable to make these people happy. These people who are so much torn and crushed by the three modes of material nature. Let me be your puppet and make me dance as you wish for me to dance. In one sense, this spirit that Srila Prabhupada has revealed is the foundational basis of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. We don't want to be great puppeteers. We want to be humble puppets. Then the actual great puppeteers can use us to do their will, to do great things. And within our society, the ceremony of initiation is to commit ourselves, to aspire to be very, very sincere, dedicated, honest puppets of Srila Prabhupada. And his strings are his instructions. And also his divine grace, which is coming through those instructions. The instructions he's given us in his books, in his lectures, in personal instructions to devotees, and by his example. He is our founder Acharya. This, for us, has a very profound meaning. Because there are so many teachings in his books, instructions, histories, philosophies, and his incredible commentaries or purports he declared to be his spiritual ecstasies that he shared with us in a very intimate and personal way. And his life is the most transparent window by which we can understand how to practically apply these teachings in our lives. We cannot imitate great souls. If we do, we create a mess, even with good intentions. But we can follow in their footsteps. We could try to capture the spirit in which they're applying their sacred teachings and apply them in our lives. Srila Prabhupada always had us chant this beautiful verse that Sriman Harivilas Prabhu recited so many times at the beginning of today's ceremony. Whenever there was the taking of vows, Prabhupada would have us chant it together. Because this verse not only encapsulates the very essence of the purpose of initiation, but the very purpose of human life, in all aspects of life. Om apavitra pavitro va sarvavastam gatopi va yasmaret pundarikaksham sabhayapyantara suchi. Shri Vishnu, Shri Vishnu, Shri Vishnu. First we begin with Om. Krishna says, Pranava sarva vedeshu, that I am the sacred syllable Om. Om is Krishna himself. Yeyatamam prapadyante tams tataiva bhajamyam. The Gita, Krishna tells that I reveal myself according to how you surrender to me. To people who are, to the transcendentalists who approach the impersonal aspect of the Lord, Brahman, they perceive Om as that all-pervading, supreme, absolute source of all that exists. For those who are aspiring for Paramatma realization, Om is the vibration that invokes the Lord who is within the heart of every living being. And for those who are on the path of pure bhakti, who are aspiring for loving relationship with Bhagavan, Om is Krishna. Om apavitra pavitrova. After invoking the divine presence of Krishna's grace, we're given this message. Whether you are purified or whether you are unpure. Now, I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand or anything, but question. How many of us are pure? And how many of us are unpure? Now, if you think yourself to be pure, you're not going to try to purify yourself. So better to think yourself unpure. And the more you feel yourself unpure, the more you really feel a need to purify yourself. Doesn't mean you should act unpure. Because that makes you more unpure. If we actually really believe I'm unpure, then we will be so highly motivated to act and speak purely because we need to be purified. And we take shelter of the holy name and take shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam and take shelter of the association of devotees and take shelter of the deities because there's a sense of urgency. Whether one is pure or impure, and the next part is very important, or even having passed through all various situations, one who takes shelter of remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is Pundarikaksha, who is so beautiful, who has lotus-like eyes, becomes purified within and without. Because Krishna is Pavitra. Om Apavitra Pavitrova. Pavitra means pure. It is one of Krishna's names. He is supremely pure. And his name, Sudhanam, is supremely pure. And the Srimad Bhagavatam, Amalam Puranam, is supremely pure. So in all these different manifestations, Krishna has come to purify us. And Srila Prabhupada gives an example that what we associate with, we take on those qualities. He gives the example of a rod of iron. Now, the rod of iron seems to be metal, which it is. But if you put it in fire and keep it there for a long time, it glows with the same heat as fire. In fact, it becomes fire. And Prabhupada said, you may challenge, it's still an iron rod. Prabhupada said, then sir, touch it. If you touch it, you get burnt as if, the same way as if you touch fire directly. And if the iron rod is glowing, if you touch it to some paper, it will make the paper start on fire. So it has all the qualities of fire because of its association with fire. If you take the same iron rod and put it for hours and hours in ice, it will become as cold as ice. You can put it in a glass of water and it will make it as cold as if you put ice in the water. And if you touch it, what we associate with, we become. That is the law of nature. For those of you who have parents, who are parents, and I'm sure a lot of you are, because I see all these children everywhere. You know how important it is who your children associate with. It's going to very much affect their whole perception of the world, their behavior, what they speak, their values. Krishna is non-different than his name. Krishna is non-different than his form on the altar. Krishna is non-different than his pastimes. Krishna reveals himself through the hearts of those devotees who love him. In this way, Krishna makes it so accessible to always remember him. And in remembering him, because he's all pure, we become purified. Srila Prabhupada gives an example of the sun. By the power of the sun's rays are touching even human excrement. Or it's a fancy word for stool. And the sun, in due course of time, purifies the stool. But even though it's touching the stool, the sun does not get contaminated by this human excrement. In the same way, Krishna is completely pure. By coming in touch with anything impure, he never becomes affected. He only purifies. And to remember Krishna is the way to purify our consciousness. The simplest, most profound and powerful way of purifying our consciousness. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sajja Kabunoi Sravanadi Suti Chitti Koriya Yudoi. That love for Krishna is dormant within the heart of every living being. But it has been forgotten. Due to the endless distractions that create so many obsessions and fears within this world. And we become so preoccupied by the stuff of this world that we forget who we are. We forget the love, the ecstasy of love of Krishna that is within us. And when we have been habituated to these obsessions of material life, birth after birth after birth, the closest thing to us seems so far away and even unapproachable. How is that possible? Maya, the illusory energy, is constantly creating distractions. And on whatever level we are in sadhana, bhakti, trying to purify ourselves, Maya is always going to be there, providing alternatives. And she's supremely intelligent. Daiviheshu gunamayi mama maya duratya, because she's Krishna's energy. She's a divine energy. She's very, very intelligent. And she will provide so many ways. It may be through temptation, it may be through fear, it may be through crisis, disaster, betrayal, disease, earthquakes. There's so many ways she can distract our mind away. But her most powerful force, more powerful than the rains that devastate the whole planet at the time of pralaya, more powerful than blazing fire or the most massive earthquakes or tsunamis. The greatest force Maya has to make us forget Krishna and our love for Krishna, to make us forget that that's really all that life's about, is ahankar, the false ego. Can't taste it, can't see it, can't touch it, can't smell it, can't even conceive of it. It's so subtle. Bhumirapo nalo vayu kamanora eva ejavacha. Ahankara. Krishna, in the Gita, Krishna says there are 8 material elements. Earth, water. Subtler than water is fire. Subtler than fire is air. Subtler than air is space. That's quite subtle. But subtler than space is the mind. Subtler than the mind is the intelligence. And the subtlest of all matter is the ego. And the subtler a thing becomes, the more powerful it becomes. The ego has such power. And it's within all of us. And we're all affecting each other by our egos. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he teaches us what is the most expedient and the most powerful way of surrendering to God and chanting His names. Trinadapi sunichena. Taror ibaseheshnuna. Amani namana dena kirtaniya sadahari. This is completely opposite of material psychology. To feel oneself more humble than a blade of grass. This is quite profound. Have any of you ever actually seriously studied a blade of grass? And really try to identify with it? Nobody cares about the blade of grass. Doesn't even seem that the other grass cares about the blade of grass. And people step on it, and people throw garbage on it, and people do so many things. Dogs, and you know what dogs do. And the blade of grass just keeps coming back up to serve. More humble than a blade of grass. More tolerant than a tree. Giving shade while standing in the sun. Giving heat with its wood when it's standing covered by ice. Giving fruit in the dry season, sweet mangoes, while it hasn't touched a drop of water in 6 months. In other words, what we learn from the grass and from the tree is this: we cannot imitate the grass and the tree, but we understand the principles of seva. Seva means unselfish service. When we sincerely embrace the concept of seva as the most valuable, precious commodity in all of existence, as the means by which we connect to Krishna, when we value seva as a greater wealth than anything else, then we're on the path of bhakti, the true path of bhakti. It is said that if you want to know how rich you are, try to find out how many things you have that money cannot buy. Real wealth is in love. To be loved. And the connection to that love is bhakti. And bhakti is based on seva. The enthusiasm to serve. And Srila Prabhupada, he wanted to emphasize this point in such a way that he even gave a translation for the Maha Mantra. Actually, the mantra itself is just an invocation of names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare But Srila Prabhupada explained the disposition by which we should chant so that we actually can attract the grace of these names. And that is, O Radha, Hara. O Krishna, the all-attractive one. O Rama, the reservoir of all pleasure. Please engage me in your loving service. When we chant the names, we are chanting to serve the Lord, to please the Lord. Harinama, Harinama, Harinama eva kevalam, kalo nasteva, 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 gatiranyata. In this age of Kali, there is no other way to actually access that highest revelation of prema bhakti than through the chanting of God's names. Chaito Darapana Marjanam. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains in this verse that the mind is like a mirror. When you look in the mirror, you're supposed to see yourself. When the Atma, the pure soul, Satchit Ananda, Mamaivam so jiva loke, when that pure soul that's a part of Krishna, that inherently loves Krishna, when it looks through the world, through the mind, it's supposed to see itself and its relation with Krishna and its love for Krishna and its compassion to all beings. But when the mind is covered with dirt, all we see is the dirt. All the material designations that we feel are necessary to enjoy this world. All the material designations that our ego attaches itself to. That's all we see. And we see the whole world and everyone and everything according to that ego. But this chanting of Krishna's names cleans the mirror of the mind and enables us to actually experience the Krishna's love for us, which is infinite, and our love for Krishna, which is really the all in all of the existence of the soul. There's nothing else. Thakur Bhaktivinoda prayed that I have seen and considered the entire 14 worlds. And my conclusion, without your holy name, Krishna, nothing can save me. This is how we take shelter of the holy names. So at the time of initiation, both first initiation as well as second initiation, we are really vowing and reconfirming our vows to make the chanting of the holy names the very focus of our life, and to somehow or other orchestrate everything else in our life around this Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam, this greatest of all benedictions. And we advance not just by taking the vows. Anyone could speak vows. We make advancement by how sincerely we apply the spirit of the vows we take to our life. And how the choices we make as we're passing through all different situations in life, we live with dignity, with integrity, with character. We make that choice no matter what. If we lose our values, we lose our connection to Krishna in our consciousness. So it is so important. Srila Prabhupada wanted his devotees to actually live with the value of a Vaishnava. These 4 regulative principles we are vowing to follow are just like a beginning, although they're very difficult to some. No illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling, no meat eating. By following these, we have a foundation of moral principles, of compassion to others, of self-control, in a way that we could actually become purified without just clouding our mind. We clean the dust of the mind and we don't throw more on it afterward. But in Srila Prabhupada's books, to be honest, to be forgiving, to be humble, there are so many qualities that we should be living by. Not to speak prajalpa. Rupa Goswami tells that the symptom of a sincere devotee, especially one who really is a devotee, is we do not have the propensity to criticize others. If we're serious about our Krishna consciousness, if we're serious about our connection with Prabhupada and the vows we're taking, we have to seriously understand that these are important principles. They're not details. And if we take all of this seriously, and and we chant the holy names, then Krishna will purify us. Srila Prabhupada was the first person in history to take this Vaishnav principle to the whole world in the line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And as our founder Acharya, he is the Guru whom everyone is meant to work together to assist. And we have different roles we take. But we should never forget we are one family for this purpose. Some may be initiating gurus. Some may be shiksha gurus. According to Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is no difference between a diksha guru and a shiksha guru. They perform different functions, but who they represent, what they represent, and what they're giving to us is not different. And there's temple presidents, and GBCs, and sannyasis, brahmacharis, grihastas, and vanaprasthas. And there's cooks, and book distributors, and pujaris, and there's temple commanders, whatever words they use these days. There's so many different functions. There's teachers, there's mothers, there's fathers, there's children. Whatever role we have, the real substance of that role is to the degree we're all assisting each other in assisting Srila Prabhupada, who came to make Krishna consciousness available to the whole world. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Prema Dan. This giving of prema is the greatest charity, because it can rescue us from birth and death. But charity does begin at home. Hari Vilas Prabhu was speaking about devotee care. If we want a strong society that is going to attract the world, we have to be united. We have to actually be developing love and trust with each other as a big family. And for that, we are all united in whatever roles, whoever's gurus, whoever's disciples, we're all united as a family to assist Srila Prabhupada in making this beautiful international society for Krishna consciousness a house that people from all different situations of life in this world can find shelter in. Taking this seriously is initiation. To commit ourselves to be a part of Srila Prabhupada's divine grace in the world. And here in Seattle and Portland and Vancouver or wherever else you may be coming, these are places that my dear God brother Hari Vilas Prabhu has given so much of his time, his heart, his life. And I so deeply value his association. I see how he sacrifices everything to serve all of you, to inspire all of you, expecting nothing in return. He's so much captured Srila Prabhupada's message in his life. And I'm so grateful that you include me in your service here in Seattle. I'd like to request you, Hari Vilas Prabhu, if you could give a message to these devotees who are going to take initiation.
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutali Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tanamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Pacharani Nirvisesa Sunyavani Paskati Dasatarani. It's very hard to say anything, Maharaj, after hearing such profound words and sincere, bona fide statements of the mission of Krishna consciousness. The one thing I can say is that a vow that's taken and kept defines who we are. We have to be what's called promise keepers, not promise breakers. The whole success of preaching in Krishna consciousness is being able to inspire faith in a person. If you get married, you have faith that you'll be happy with this person. Just like one day a lady told me, when I got married, I was convinced my husband is Ram. She said, 3 months later I realized he was Ravana. So, that's a big mistake, right? So, one thing you have to be sure of at the moment of initiation is that you want to be from this point on, the rest of your life and forever, a sincere disciple. Disciple comes from the root word discipline. You follow the discipline of guru and gurus. That discipline is, the nature of the soul is to take dictation from a superior. Just like I take dictation from my superiors. Number one superior is my wife. And then, of course, elders and Guru, Krishna, Krishna's Shastra, Everyone is taking dictation, because it's the nature of the soul. So, the day we want to become a disciple, it means that we are serious about doing this for the rest of our life. It's not that before we're a disciple, sometimes we'll listen, sometimes we don't. Whatever feels good, we do. But when you take the vow of initiation, there's no more sometimes this, sometimes that. That's 24/7, 365, the rest of your life. Otherwise, don't do it. If you're not ready to do it, stand up and walk away. So one time Srila Prabhupada wrote a letter to Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. This is in 1952. Nehru had written some article in a newspaper, and in that article he said, "Let us be true to one another." That was the title of it, the article. And basically he said that we have to create a new value system that is based on the absolute truth. But we have to find it in new ways, and we have to adapt it to our present environment. So this is, if you look at it, a complete nonsense statement. It's like reinventing the wheel that was already invented, millions of years ago. So Prabhupada wrote him a letter, and he said that morality is established in two ways, either deductive or inductive. Deductive means that you take a statement for granted that's from a reliable source. Right. So what's the reliable source in spiritual life? It's the parampara, statements coming from Krishna and passed down without being changed. And you live the rest of your life based on that. It's very simple. It's not complicated. And the inductive system of morality is that you experiment, you observe and you make experiments, and you try and draw some conclusions, and you use those conclusions as some kind of relative truth. But the problem with that is that if the facts supporting that relative truth fail, the truth fails also. So Prabhupada explained that in previous times, people's lives were much simpler. They assumed what the Vedas said is true, and they lived their life. Just like the Vedas recommend ghee. But in modern times, since the 1950s, people say, don't eat ghee, it's bad for you. Eat dalda. Hydrogenated oils, so that you get diabetes, you get high blood pressure, you get cardiac problems. And that's good business for the doctors. But previously, people lived a simple life. Whatever the Vedas said, they accepted it as the truth, and they followed it. So Prabhupada says, today, people don't live long lives. Because why? They're taking medical marijuana and sleeping more. They're eating junk food. They're watching television, which means you're sleeping, right? And all these things. So how much are they awake? So he says, people only live 30 years maximum. Because if you count all the time that they're asleep and doing nonsense, that's not living. It's not being conscious. Living means being conscious. And real life means being conscious of Krishna. And then he says, they're generally not very simple. Almost everyone is designing plans for making money, for increasing sense gratification, and being crooked, being dishonest. And then he says, they have no scope for high thinking because they're perplexed with different relative truths. What is high thinking? High thinking is, how am I going to serve my Guru's mission? If you read Prabhupada's biography, from the moment his Guru met him in 1920, 21 or 22, and in the first 30 seconds he gave him his life's mission. If you can spread this movement, preach this movement in the English language, you'll do great service. That stayed in his mind the rest of his life. That was his Mahavaikya. That was his worldview. That was his all-consuming purpose in life, was to accomplish that goal. So this moment is like that. Your Guru is sitting here, and he just gave a wonderful expose of what is initiation. You should take every word to heart. Make this the motto of your life. To be humble. To be very surrendered to pushing forward the movement of Srila Prabhupada. Humbleness, you cannot imagine how important it is. There was once a big oak tree, very powerful tree. And there was a lot of tall grass. And a hurricane came and blew all the grass down. And the oak tree started to laugh. You're all nonsense. You're so weak. So he stood up. Watch me. The hurricane can't blow me over. And he stood like that. And the hurricane increased the speed of the wind. And all of a sudden, there was a terrible sound, and the whole oak tree was uprooted and went down with a crash. When the hurricane was over, the grass came back up again. You see? Because the grass was humble, and the oak tree was humbug. See? There's a difference between humble and humbug. Then Prabhupada says, above all, people in this age are always distressed by famine, scarcity, grief, and diseases, and it's increasing. And then he says that in old days, life was not so much conditioned and encumbered. The simple problems were then the problems of bread, clothing, and shelter, which were solved by the simplest process, by agriculture. They used to solve the bread, clothing, and shelter problems. And industrialization was unknown to them. And today I went and visited a farm in Duval. And it's a cow farm. There were 300 cows and 400 acres. And I was looking around for the owner, and finally he appeared. He's 81 years old. His name is Dewey. He comes from Holland. He came here when he was 26. And Dewey told me, my whole life I drink milk. I never had a problem in my life. Never got sick. My hand doesn't shake. I work all day. I go to sleep. At night, I have no worries. He said, people are crazy. They're taking drugs. They're drinking. They're taking welfare. They're not working, or they're working all day. He said, what is better than this life? He said, look at me. He said, I'm 81 years old. I've never been sick in my whole life. So his problems are solved. He said, I came to America, I didn't have one penny in my pocket. I didn't know anything. I never went to school. I mean, I went a little bit to school. I never got any higher education. So, this is what Prabhupada is teaching, this simple life. So from this day on, as soon as we get initiated, the American dream. I come to America with the nothing. And now I got a Cadillac. And my wife got a mint coat. And I got the 4-house. Right. So that's the American dream. It's called rags to riches. And the Vaishnava dream is riches to rags. But it's not that we're forced to do it. We do it voluntarily. Just like Maharaj described Prabhupada when he came to America. 70 years old, he had 2 heart attacks on the boat coming to the United States. He had no money, he had equivalent of 40 rupees, maybe $6, $7 in his pocket. And he didn't know anybody. He didn't have any relatives or friends, nobody to help him. Right? But wait a minute. He didn't know anybody? No, he knew Krishna, and he knew his Guru, and he knew Bhagavad Gita, and Bhagavatam, and Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, if you look at him, let's say you saw him walking down the street in the Bowery in 1965, you said, this guy, who is this guy? It's nobody. He doesn't have a bank account, he doesn't have a business, doesn't have a house. He's nobody. But he's the greatest person in this world because he has Krishna in his heart. So today, Krishna is planted in your heart by your Guru's mercy. This is the most precious gift. Just like in the Bible, there's a story that 3 men received talents. They received blessings. One has 1 blessing, another has 5, the other has 10. Some years later, they were asked when they were instructed, now you multiply your blessings. So years later, the person that gave them came to them and said, okay, what happened to the 10? And the person said, well, I have 10, now it's 20. And he said, what happened to the 5? He said, I have 5, now it's 10. He said, what happened to the 1? He said, I have 1, but I kept it underneath my bed, and here it is. In other words, he didn't do anything with the blessing. He just kept it hidden. So, what are we going to do with this blessing today? You're free of all your karmic reactions. In other words, you're free in this sense. They're put on hold. Whatever you're destined to get from your previous karma, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, they're put on hold. That means there's no obstacle in your life right now to engage in devotional service. What are you going to do with it? Your duty, as Prabhupada said, is double it every year. That's the mantra, double it every year. If you say, no, I can't do it, I'm too tired, I have too many responsibilities, then you're like the man that had kept the blessing underneath the bed, didn't do anything with it. But don't be afraid. You can double it every year. If Krishna is pleased with you, look what Prabhupada did. He more than doubled every year. Right? He went from nothing to the International Society for Krishna Consciousness with hundreds of temples, thousands and thousands of devotees, and up until now, more than almost 1 billion books, bona fide books, Krishna philosophy spread around the world in hundreds of languages. Right? And it's still doubling. So, take this initiation very seriously. The spiritual master is known by the behavior of the disciples. If you behave in an exceptional way, people say, that person, spiritual master, is somebody I want to meet, because I knew this person before and they were a jerk. And now this person is an exceptional person. Something happened. I want to know the person that inspired them. You want to glorify your Guru? You behave very nicely. Trinada pisunichana. You want to vilify your Guru? Then be a nonsense. Don't take this initiation seriously. And you vilify your Guru and you vilify Krishna. People say, oh, this one's a devotee and he did that? That means his Guru is bad and his God is bad. I don't want anything to do with them. So take this seriously today. Live a very simple life. If you can earn $1 million a day, there's nothing wrong with that. But before nighttime, you should spend it all to serve the mission of Srila Prabhupada. Because how much you need to eat and sleep. You don't need $1 million every day. You just need $20 a day. That's it. Or $50 a day. Or $500 a day. See? If we take more than we need, this is why Vamanadev came to Bali Maharaj. He owned the whole universe. But you only need 1 or 2 acres of land and a cow to solve your economic problem. So he came to take it all away from him because he became attached to it. So, use it or lose it. Use it or you're going to lose it. So I want to thank Radhanath Swami Maharaj from the bottom of my heart for inspiring so many people in this world to be attracted to following this Krishna consciousness movement, understanding Prabhupada's mission, and caring for them so they don't go away. Caring for a person so they don't go away is the meaning when Prabhupada said, to make one devotee will cost 100 gallons of blood. It's not a one-time thing, it's ongoing. And if we're serious, we'll capture this from Maharaj. To care for others. Just like he's caring for you, you should care for others. That means you have to be selfless. You shouldn't be selfish. You should be always giving. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Ishvara Paramat Krishna Satchit Ananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam Chintamani Prakada Satma Sukalpa Vriksha Laksha Vrite Susurabir Abhipaliyantam Lakshmi Sahasra Sambrahma Sevyamanam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Venam Kvanantam Aravinda Dalayataksham Bharhavatam Samasitam Sundarangam Kandarpakoti Kamaniya Visesha Sobam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandra Kalasat Vanamalyam Vamsi Ratnam Gadam Pranayakeli Kalavilasam Shyamam Tribangalalitam Niyata Prakasam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti Pasyanti Panti Kalayanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Ashutam Anadim Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vede Sudurlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Pantastu Koti Satavatsada Sampragamyo Vayoratapi Manaso Muni Pungavanam Sobhyasti Yat Prapadasimya Vichintya Tattve Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Sora Chayitum Jagadanda Kotim Yachaktirasti Jagadanda Chayayadanta Andantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam Govindamadipurusham tamaham bhajami. Yad bhava bhavita diyo manachastataiva sampraptya rupa mahima sanayana bhusa suktaryameva nigama pratitaistuvanti Govindamadipurusham tamaham bhajami. Ananda chinmaya rasa pratibhavitabhis tabirya eva nijarupataya kalabi Goloka eva nivasatya kilatma bhuto Govindamadipurusham tamaham bhajami. Premam janachurita bhakti vilochanena santak sadaiva hidayesu vilokayanti Yam shama sundaram achintya gunaswarupam Govindamadipurusham tamaham bhajami. Ramadi murti sukala niyamena tistan Nanavatar makarod bhuvaneshu kintu Krishna swayam samabhavat paramam pumamyo Govindamadipurusham tamaham bhajami. Yasya prabha prabhavato jagadanda koti Kotishvasesu vasudadi vibhuti benam Tad brahma niskalam anantam asesa bhutam Govindamadipurusham tamaham bhajami. Maya hi yasya jagadanda satani sute Trigunyatad vishaya veda vitayamanam Sadvalamam vivarasatvam visuddha sattvam Govindamadipurusham tamaham bhajami. Ananda chinmaya rasat mataya munasu Ya praninam pratifalam smaratam upetya Lila yatena bhuvanani jayat yajasram Govindamadipurusham tamaham bhajami. Golokanamni nijadamni talecha tasya Devi mahesa haridama sute sutesu Te te prabhava nichaya vihitascha yena Govindamadipurusham tamaham bhajami. Shristi stiti pralaya sadhana sakti reka Chayeva yasya bhuvanani vibharti durga Ichchana rupam api yasya chachesta Govindamadipurusham tamaham bhajami. Shiram yata dadi vikara visesa yogat Sanjayate nahi tata pritakasti etu Yasambhutam api tata samupaiti karyat Govindamadipurusham tamaham bhajami. Dipachireva hitasantaramabhyupetya Dipayate vrivitahetu samanu dharma Yastadrik vibhati Govindamadipurusham tamaham bhajami. Karnanarna vajale bhajati sma yoga Nidram ananta jagadanda saromakupa Adhara shaktim avalamya param swamurtim Govindamadipurusham tamaham bhajami. Yasyaika nisvasitakalamatavalamya Jivanti loma vilaja jagadandanata Vishnur mahansa ihayasya kalaviseso Govindamadipurusham tamaham bhajami. Bhasvam yatasma sakalesu nijesu teja Swiyam kiyat prakatiyat apitadvatatra Brahmaya esa jagadanda vidana karta Govindamadipurusham tamaham bhajami. Yat pada palavayugam vinidaya kumbha Tvande pranama samaye saganadi raja Vignan vihantam alamasya jagatrayasya Govindamadipurusham tamaham bhajami. Agnir mahi gaganamambu maruddhisascha Kalastatatma manasiti jagatrayani Yasmad bhavanti vibhavanti vishanti yamcha Govindamadipurusham tamaham bhajami. Yaschakshuresa savita sakala grahanam Raja samasta suramurti rasesa teja yasya gyaya brahmati sambrita kala chakro govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami dharmo tapapa nichaya shrutayastapamsi Brahmadikita patagavadayascha jiva yadatta vibhava prakata prabhava govindam hadi purusham tamaham bhajami yasmindra gopramatavedra mahosvakarma bandhana rupa falabhajana matanoti karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhakti bhajan Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yam Krodha Kama Sahaja Pranayadi Vitti Vatsalya Moha Guru Gaurava Sevya Bhavai Sanchitya Tasya Sadrisim Tanamapurete Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Shiyakanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpataravo Druma Bhumis Chintamani Ganamayi Toyam Amritam Kata Ganam Natyam Gamanam Apivam Sipriya Saki Chidanandam Jyoti Puram Amavitad Avapicha Isayatra Shiradi Bihi Shrabati Surabi Vyascha Sumahan Nime Sarada Kyono Vrajati Nahi Yatrapi Samaye Vajay Srita Dvipam Tamaham Iha Golokam Itiyam Vidantaste Santakshiti Virala Charat Katipaye Ishwara Parama Krishna Sachit Ananda Vigraha Anadi Radhi Govinda Sarvakarana Karana. Going to do the names.
As each of the initiates comes forward, please state your vows. I won't have to ask you, just state them. To chant at least 16 rounds, the Hare Krishna mantra each day, minimum. State the 4 regulative principles. And the will to be always striving to be the servant of Srila Prabhupada's devotees.
Go ahead.
Hare Krishna. So I request Her Grace Madhuri Chandaka Mataji. Please go and offer obeisances first to Srila Prabhupada and then to all our beloved deities. And then please come forward. Next, Sanjeev Agarwal Prabhu and Deepthi Mataji, please be ready. You can go and offer obeisances.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
We'll be here.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I'll chant 16 rounds every day minimum without fail, and I'll follow the 4 regulative principles: no meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, and no illicit sex. And I'll serve Srila Prabhupada mission life after life as a servant of servant. Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you very much. On behalf of Srila Prabhupada and our Guru Parampara, it is my honor to offer you the name Mohini Sundari Devi Dasi.
Her Grace Moguni Sundari Devi Dasi Mata Ji ki jai. Next, Srinivas Malipadi Prabhu, Radhika Mataji, please be ready. Sanjeev Prabhu, please come forward. Mataji.
Thank you. Congratulations.
I will chant 16 rounds and no meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling, and no intoxication. And I will try my best to serve for the Srila Prabhupada's mission. And I will try to be servant of the servant.
Thank you very much. On behalf of Srila Prabhupada and our disciplic succession, we're very happy to give you the name Sachi Prananath Das.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Take the microphone from the left.
So I'm taking a vow to always chant 16 rounds sincerely and following 4 regulative principles: no meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, no illicit connection, and try my best to give my life soul to serve Srila Prabhupada mission honestly, sincerely, and follow Dasanudas, think myself as a servant of servant of servant.
Thank you very much, Mataji. On Srila Prabhupada's behalf, it's my honor to offer you the name Devi Kishori Devi Dasi.
His Grace Sachi Prananath Prabhu ki jai. Her Grace Devi Kishori Devdasi Mataji ki jai. Srinivas Prabhu, please come.
Next. Go.
Rahul Prabhu, please be ready. Srinivas Prabhu, please come forward. Mataji, please come forward.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, my vows, without fail, I will chant 16 rounds every day and follow 4 regulative principles: no meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, and no illicit sex. And with all my abilities, with full of my abilities, I will support Harivilas Prabhu in assisting Srila Prabhupada's mission. And I will try to serve all Vaishnavas with my abilities.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. On behalf of Srila Prabhupada and our Guru Parampara, very happy to give you the name Srinivas Gopal Das.
Haribol!
His Grace Srinivas Gopal Prabhu ki.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I will chant 16 rounds without fail, and I will follow the 4 regulative principles, namely no meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, and no intoxication. And I will follow Srila Prabhu's instructions, and I will follow Srila Prabhupada's instructions without fail, and I will try to be serving everybody without putting any offenses to the Vaishnavas.
Thank you very much. On behalf of Srila Prabhupada and our Guru Parampara, very pleased to give you the name Radhika Nam Devi Dasi.
Haribol!
Her Grace Radhika Nama Devi Mataji ki. Next I request Ruchika Mataji to be ready and request Rahul Sharma to come forward.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Today I take a vow of chanting 16 rounds minimum every day I will follow 4 regulative principles of no illicit sex, no meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication. Also, I will follow Prabhupada teachings for the rest of my life, and I'll try to serve all the devotees in this congregation. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. On behalf of Srila Prabhupada and our Guru Parampara, it's my honor to offer you the name Raseshwar Das.
His Grace Radheshwar Prabhu ki. Next I request Manu Patel Prabhu and Manna Patel Mataji to be ready, and request Ruchika Mataji to come forward.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I'll try to chant minimum 16 rounds of Hare Krishna mantra every day. I'll follow 4 regulative principles. No meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling and no illicit sex. And I try to follow Srila Prabhupada mission as a servant of the servant of the servant.
Thank you very much. On behalf of Srila Prabhupada, we offer you the name Rukmini Priti Devi Dasi.
Her Grace Rukmini Priti Mataji ki. Next I request Inga Mataji and Ronaldo Prabhu to be ready, and I request Manu Prabhu and Manna Mataji to come forward.
Maharaj, I will take a vow to chant 16 rounds every day on a Tulsi Veds, and I'll follow the 4 regulative principles, namely no meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, no illicit sex. Maharaj, I will serve my life long the Prabhupada mission and serve all the devotees, being the servant of the servant of the servant.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. On Srila Prabhupada's behalf and that of our Guru Parampara, we offer you the name Madhava Gauranga Das.
His Grace Madhava Gauranga Prabhu ki.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I'm taking the vow to chant 16 rounds on my Tulsi beads every day. I will follow the 4 regulative principles, namely no meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, no illicit sex, and I will serve the Prabhupada mission in a mode of servants of devotees. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On behalf of Srila Prabhupada and our Guru Parampara, it's my honor to offer you the name Manjari Gopika Devi Das.
Her Grace Manjari Gopika Devi Mataji ki. I request Inga Mataji to come forward.
Congratulations.
Krishna Maharaj, I vow to chant at least 16 rounds every day of the holy name of the Lord. I vow to follow strictly all the regulative principles, such as no meat eating, no gambling, no intoxicating, no illicit sex. I will dedicate my life to serve the servants of the servants of the servants of Krishna. Srila Prabhupada and Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. On behalf of Srila Prabhupada and our ISKCON Society, I'm very honored to give you the name Ishwari Janaba Devi Dasi.
Haribo!
Her Grace Ishwari Janav Mataji ki. I request Ronaldo Prabhu to come forward.
Thank you, Maharaja, for accepting me as your disciple. Today, in the assembly of devotees, in the presence of the deity, in your presence, I take the vow to chant no less than 16 rounds every day, to follow the regulatory principles of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, such as no gambling, no meditating, no intoxication, no illicit sex. And I also take the vow to serve the mission of Srila Prabhupada, to serve you and the devotees in the mood of the servant of the servant.
Thank you very much. On behalf of Srila Prabhupada, our ISKCON Society, and our Guru Parampara, it's my honor to give you the name Ram Nityananda Das.
His Grace Ram Nityananda Prabhu ki. Now I request all the second initiation candidates, Prabhujis, to come forward to receive their threads. First I request His Grace Gauranga Chandra Prabhu.
Tell them to read off all the names so they get ready.
Gauranga Chandra Prabhu.
Please help me.
And the next I request Brajakrupa Prabhu to be ready. And the next Balanathai Prabhu, Krishna Keshav Prabhu, Madhava Hari Prabhu, Ram Tulsi Prabhu, and Raghunan Kishore Prabhu to be ready. Please go on, offer obeisances and be ready. Please come forward. Remove your chadar. Please remove your chadar. Remove. His Grace Gauranga Chandra Prabhu ki. Brajakar Prabhu, please come forward.
Haribo, Haribo.
His Grace Brajakrupa Prabhu ki. Palnathai Prabhu, please come forward. Remove your chadar.
Haribo.
His Grace Balanathai Prabhu ki.
Jai Prabhu. Big day. Hari Bol.
His Grace Krishna Keshav Prabhu ki. Madhavgiri Prabhu, please come forward.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
His Grace Madhav Hari Prabhu ki. Ram Tulsi Prabhu, please come forward.
Hari Bol.
His Grace Ram Tulsi Prabhu ki.
Hari Bol.
His Grace Krishna Kishore Prabhu ki.
We'll chant together. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma Vandomui Savadana Mate Janara Prasade Bhai Bhavatoriya Jai Krishna Prabdi Hoya Hoite Guru Mukha Padma Vaikya Chitte Koriya Arana Koriya Mane Asa Shri Guru Charane Rati Ese Utamagati Krishna Prapti Hoya Hoite Chakshudan Dilaje Janme Janme Prabhu se Divya Gyan Hide Prokasito Prema Bhakti Jaha Hoite Avidya Vinasa Jate Niracharito Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adana Janara Bandhu Lokenath Lokera Jivana Haha Prabhu Kora Doya Deha More Pada Chaya Prabhu Kora Doya Deha More Pada Chaya Ebe Asku Sukhi Bhuvana Prabhupada Patita Pavana Gurudev, 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 Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Bolo Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, bhuva swaha tat savitur varenyam bargo devasya dhimahi diyo yunaha prachodayat om apo jyoti raso amritam brahma burbhuvaha swar aham kratur aham yagya swadaham aham sosadam mantraham aham evajam aham agni aham bhutam Om swasti no govindo swasti no chutananto swasti no vasudevo vishnu dadatu swasti no narayano naropai swasti na padmanabha purushatamo dadatu swasti no vishvaksino vishveswaraha swasti no rishikesho harir dadatu swasti no vainateyo harir swasti no anjana suto hanur bhagavato dadatu swasti swasti sumangala kesho mahan Shri Krishna Satchit Ananda Ganaha Sarveswareswaro dadatu Om Bhur Swaha Idam Vishnave Idam Namama Om Bhuva Swaha Idam Achutaya Idam Namama Om Swaha Idam Narayana Idam Namama Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Idam Anantaya Idam Namama Om Aganya Timirandasya Yananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Rave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manubhishtam Shapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Swaha 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 Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapachkamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Saidvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Nivitam Sha Swaha 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 Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Radhanath Swami Iti Namine Swaha 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 Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Maha Swaha Swaha Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatarine Swaha 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 Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine Shivasabhanami Devi Daitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Swaha 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 Madhur Ujjwala Premadya Sri Rupa Nuga Bhaktida Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupa Nuga Virudapa Siddhanta Dvanta Harine Swaha 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 Namo Gora Kishoraya Sakshat Vairagya Murtaye Vipralamba Brasambode Padambu Jayate Namaha Swaha 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 Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchit Ananda Namine Gora Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Swaha 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 Goravir Baba Bhumestvam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhaumashi Jagannathayate Namaha Swaha 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 Panchakalpatarabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Swaha 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 Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Goratsase Namaha Swaha 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 Panchatatvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhaktasaktikam Swaha 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 He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Swaha 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 Jayatam Surator Bangor Mama Mandamatir Gati Matsarva Swapadam Bojo Radha Madhuna Mohano Swaha 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 Divyad Vindaranya Kalpa Drumadaha Srimad Ratnagara Simhasanastito Srimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Pristali Bihi Sevyamanu Smarami Swaha 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 Shiman Rasa Rasa Rambi Vamsivatatastita Kasan Venuswaner Gopir Gopinatakstriyestuna Swaha 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 Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishavanustute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Swaha 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 Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vindam Swaha 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 Hari Om Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Swaha 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Swaha 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Swaha 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 Om Mantra Hinam Kriya Ninam Bhakti Hinam Janardana Yat Pujitam Maya Deva Paripurnam Tatastu Me Swaha 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 Om Aparada Sahasrani Kriyante Narnisam Maya Dasoham Ittimam Matva Shamavasya Madhusudana Swaha 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 Om Pratigyatava Govinda Name Bhakta Pranasyati Iti Samsmitya Pranam Samdarayam Yaham Swaha 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 Om Purnam Ada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate Swaha 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 Om Agnenaya Supatara Esman Vishwani Deva Vayunani Vidvan Yuhodajma Juhuranameno Bhuyastam Te Nama Uktim Vedama Om Tat Sat Swaha Swaha Swaha. Everyone take a banana, stand up, and repeat after me. Om Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagatitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. I offer my obeisances again and again to Lord Shri Krishna, who was always worshipped by qualified brahmanas and is very dear to them. He is always concerned with the welfare of the cows, the brahmanas, and the whole universe. And he gives pleasure to the cows, land, and senses. Om Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagatitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Om Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagatitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Om Swaha Swaha Swaha. Carefully put them in, don't throw it. Yeah. You have to pile them up.